Hello, and welcome to the 741 channel. Thank you for stopping by. Today on the bench we have an old Alinco DJ-G1 2-meter HT. The problem with this radio is that somewhere along the line I've got keypad buttons that aren't working. Now, the problem with the radio right now is that it is currently in key lock mode, meaning that if you push any of the keys, nothing happens. And this way here, if it's on your belt or in your pocket or whatever, you can bump it and it won't change frequency or change modes or anything like that. However, I can't get it out of key lock mode. Now the way to get it out of key lock mode is to push this button, which is the function key, and this number 7 button. But as you can see, nothing's happening. Now some of the buttons function in key lock mode, like the push to talk button. So you can see the radio transmitted. Now I'm not sure if you saw in the video or not, but when I pushed that in, the transmit indicator kind of fluctuated a little bit, and I think that's because this button isn't quite working the way that it should. I was having trouble with this the last time that I used this radio, which was about 6 months ago. The button here is also a push to talk switch, but this causes the HT to transmit in low power regardless of what it's set to. And it was working a moment ago, but now it's kind of acting flaky, just like that one. And then this button down here should automatically turn the squelch off, so you should hear static when I push it, but that one's not working at all. And I believe that should work even in key lock mode. So either we've got a problem with the keypad on here, or we've got some problems with the keypad here, or both. So I think we're going to have to pull this apart and take a look at what's going on inside. So let's pop the battery out, and that's achieved by pushing this switch and just pulling that out. And you can see I've got rechargeable batteries in this pack here, so I'll set that aside. So there's several screws that hold the case together. There's one here. There are, let's see, 1, 2 on this side. There's one here. And then there's one here. And I think we'll also have to pull these knobs off. So I'm going to remove all those screws and then gently take this apart and see what we can do with it. So I've got all the screws out, and it looks like we can divorce the two halves here. And we want to be very careful because there is a flex board in here that we don't want to rip or pull out of its connections. So it looks like on this side the flex board is soldered directly onto the front panel circuit board, so we want to be careful there. It does look like there is a ZIF connector here that we may be able to disconnect, but the top of this, this little part of the flex board is soldered directly to the channel controls, so pulling that out isn't going to do a whole lot. So I'm going to leave it right there just as it is. Now, I'm not sure how well you guys can see this, but this is the main board, which looks like probably the main processor for the radio on it. And then behind that would be the keypad. And then over here on the side is the side keypad. And this is put together relatively cheaply. You can see here that this has those solder fillets that connect the two boards together. Instead of a proper connector, they just use solder. Maybe there's a piece of wire in there, I don't know, but I've had trouble with those on other radios in the past. I took a close look at these solder fillets that connect the main board to the side board, and it looks like every one of them is cracked right at the elbow. So the logical thing to do is to try and reflow them with my soldering iron. It's going to be tight working in here. They're closely spaced. So we're just going to have to go slow, be careful, and try not to create any shorts by reflowing these. Hopefully I won't have to add any solder. Hopefully just touching these up will do the trick. It also looks like there's a similar arrangement here. There's a bunch of solder fillets between the main board and a little flexible ribbon cable that goes down behind this board, and I think it loops around and goes to the keypad down here. I took a look at those and they don't look cracked, but some of them may be, and I'm hesitant as to whether or not I'm going to try and reflow these as well. I'll start with these because they're definitely cracked, and if this goes successful, then maybe I'll move over here and try these, but at a minimum these will have to be done. Okay, so what's ended up happening is a couple of them have opened up, which I kind of expected might happen. So I may need to try and add a little solder there to get the fillet to reestablish. So I think I've got them looking pretty good now. They're a little bit more beefed up than they were before, but I don't see any shorting. I took a closer look at this with the loop, and I do see at least one of the ones over here has a crack in it. So I think I'm going to try and touch those up too. This wasn't too bad, it just requires a steady hand. These are spaced a little bit closer together, so just have to go even slower. Okay, I think I got it now. I ended up having trouble with the 3 joints on this side. I would either starve them for solder or end up shorting them all together. So I took a couple tries and I had to use a little bit of solder wick to pull the extra solder off, but then I found if I put this X-Acto knife behind it to kind of hold that little flex board in place, it helped everything. So now I think I've got it all set. So I'm just going to clean this up one more time, and we'll put it back together and see if it works. Okay, so let's see if everything is working now. Well, it looks like the HT powers up, so that's a good sign. Let's see if we can turn the key lock off. And it looks like it's working. So now I can turn the key lock off and I can change the frequency. Okay, so now let's turn off the offset. I think that's off. Let's turn off the tone. That's off. And I should be able to key this up. And it looks like it's keying up properly. I'm just holding the push to talk switch down with the normal amount of force. And it seems like it's okay. So I've got a radio in the background set to this frequency to receive. Let's just try this out and make sure that it transmits with audio. Testing, 1, 2, 3, 4, testing, testing. And you heard a little feedback there probably, but it does sound good. There's plenty of audio. It seems like it's working. The only station I can receive in the cellar right now is my local NOAA weather station, which I've tuned to, and you can hear that the radio is receiving. So it looks like this repair was a success. I've got all the buttons working again, so I've got the radio unlocked. I can transmit and receive with it, so I think we're in good shape. If you enjoyed this video or found it useful, please give it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to leave a comment or subscribe, feel free to do that as well. Thanks for watching.